class, we are going to discuss the concept of Kerberos in network security. So first of all, let us understand what is a Kerberos. So a Kerberos is a network authentication protocol which is generally used to authenticate the systems which are there in a network and they try to communicate with each other. So basically, this is a protocol which facilitates the authentication mechanism in between the network. Okay, and it was developed by MIT in the mid 1980s. And apart from that, one special thing uh, with Kerberos is it is available as open source. Okay, and if in case you guys wanted to try the Kerberos, then you can download the code and you can start working on it or you can start using it. So this is a good thing regarding Kerberos, that it is available as an open source.
Sir,
Now
slide is not there.
it's not moving.
No, sir.
Okay, just hold on. Okay, now can you see it? Can you see the screen now? Anyone? Students, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So as I have told that Kerberos is a network authentication protocol and it was developed by the MIT in 1980s, and it is available as open source and it is also supported in many commercial software as well. So let us see a few other things regarding Kerberos. So first of all, let us try to see why Kerberos. And the most important thing why we need Kerberos is because the moment we try to authenticate any client, that means the client needs to present their username and password, right, to the server.
Sir, we are in Microsoft Teams slide, sir.
The presentation is not visible.
Now,
Yes, sir, it's visible.
No,
can you see the slide changing? Now I have shared the entire screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
Okay. So the moment we talk about the Kerberos, then we have to see about the difficulties which the users were facing in general. So in a network, the moment any client wants to connect to the any other server, then the client needs to send the username and password in a clear format. So that is a very dangerous thing to do. The moment you are trying to send or you are sending your username and password in a clear format, in a clear text, then of course, it, no matter even if you are communicating within a network, you are not communicating with the outside world. But even communicating inside a network with a clear username and password is going to compromise the security. So Kerberos brings the solution for this sort of problem, because each time a password is sent in the clear and there is a chance for interception. So in network security, we always assume that the bigger threat lies within a network. So on that concept, the design of Kerberos has been done. Now we need to understand the difference between firewall and Kerberos as well. So the basic difference between the firewall and Kerberos is that in firewall, we make the assumption that the attack is going to come from the outside the network. Okay, but in reality, the most frequent attacks or most of the attacks are generally generated within the network. Okay, so these assumptions where we consider that the attacks are most probably coming from the outside. So if that is the assumption, then you can say that uh, we are talking about the firewalls. But in Kerberos, we are making the assumptions that the attackers or the attacks may be coming within the network. So this is what makes a different firewall from the Kerberos. So as we discussed, the Kerberos assumes the network connections that the most of the attacks are coming from inside the network only, and they are the weakest link for the network security. So if you talk about the design requirement, then the design requirements that we should have or which one must have, that the interaction between host and client should be encrypted. Whatever data or whatever things are being shared in between the host and client, all that data must have to be encrypted. Okay, and it also at the same time must be convenient for the users. Okay, it should not be like that so many steps first they need to follow, only then they can communicate with the other party. So overall communication or all interface must have to be convenient for the user. Thereafter, it has to protect against the intercepted credential. So these are some of the design requirements which has to be there. Then if we talk about the cryptography approach, then there can be two types of approaches. The first one is where we make the use of symmetric keys or the private keys, and the other one where we make a use of a trusted third party. So this is the trend which nowadays the systems use to ensure their security. So in case of private key, the parties which want to communicate or which wants to share a secret message, they do that by using a private key. And in case of a trusted third party, they believe or they trust on a third party, and with the help of that third party, they communicate or they first make the key exchange, then in the later part they communicate their messages with that shared key. Okay, so there can be two approaches. In the first case, where they have got the private keys and they are using that private key for the communication, and the second one is where a intermediate party is there. First they get the key from that party and then they use that key to communicate. Okay, now if we talk about the requirements of Kerberos, then we expect the Kerberos must ensure security, it must be reliable, it must be scalable, and apart from that, it must offer transparency to both users as well as the system administrator. So most focus, of course, is going to be the on client side. So if you talk about security, that means the opponent should not be able to get the access to the system, right? And reliability means whatever the resources are there, or anytime if any clients wants to get the uh, key for any person, then that Kerberos server must be up all the time. Okay, and scalability means, for example, if you have got n number of users, then our Kerberos server must be able to support the requests coming from all those n number of clients or users. Okay, so this is what we mean by scalability. And over the period of time, if in case uh, we want to improve the uh, capacity of the system, then also the Kerberos must be able to handle it. So these are the some of the key requirements. Apart from that, the transparency, of course, users is not going to bother about what is happening inside the thing, inside the Kerberos. So only a user must be see the end system as a username password system. So user is going to present a username and password, and at the end a user must be able to gain the access to the system. So these are some of the key requirements upon which the Kerberos has been designed. And if you talk about the implementation, then it has been implemented on the basis of Needham-Schroeder protocol. So it is not exactly as a Needham-Schroeder protocol, but rather some of the things have been modified or have been improved. Okay. So if we talk about the general concept, then we have seen already that asymmetric cryptography is more efficient, right? And on the opposite side, asymmetric cryptography for enciphering large messages. So if we talk about the sharing a secret key, then in most of the cases we go for asymmetric cryptography techniques, and once the key has been exchanged, then we can go for the symmetric key cryptography approaches, right? Now the point is how that key is going to be exchanged. So one way is we can make the use of asymmetric key cryptography approaches for exchanging the keys, and the other thing is that we make the use of a trusted third party. Okay, and we call that trusted third party as a key distribution center, oftenly called as KDC. Okay, so in the coming slide, this particular term will be coming very oftenly. KDC, key distribution center. Okay, now this is how the KDC looks like. So here we assume that there are a number of users: Alice, Anne, Ted, Betsy, George, and Bob. So all these users have got the key from KDC only. Okay, so first each one of them have authenticated themselves to the KDC, and after authentication they have got a key, and with that key they can communicate with the KDC. So in the first place they need to authenticate themselves, they need to present their user ID there, and then that ID will be verified, then a key will be allocated to each and every user. Okay, so all these keys are going to be stored at KDC. And why there was a need of having a KDC? Because in general, just assume a scenario that if there are n persons and they need to communicate with n other persons, then approximately n square number of keys will be required, right? So if there are 1 million people, then one has to store that many number of keys, right? So it is not possible for each and every user to store that many number of keys. So that is why the concept of KDC is very important, and this particular third party is going to manage all those keys. Okay, so here any user will authenticate himself or herself to the KDC, and then will make a request that they need to communicate with that party, and then the further communication will be done. Okay, so we'll see how exactly that communication is being done. Now there can be two types of KDC. The first one is flat multiple KDCs, and the other one is hierarchical KDCs. So in this case, a world can be divided into number of domains. So it may be possible that when Alice is trying to communicate the Bob has been registered with some other KDC, while Alice has been registered with some other KDC. Okay, so in this case, Alice will first make a request to the KDC, and then this KDC will in turn forward or relays this request to this KDC where the Bob has been registered. Okay, so inter KDC communication will be facilitated in order to make a communication possible in between Alice and Bob. So this type of arrangement is called as a flat multiple KDCs. Okay, and in the other type of arrangement, which is called as a hierarchical multiple KDCs, So in this particular, we can assume that the domains have been arranged in this fashion, where at the bottom level we can say that the arrangement uh, is there with the local KDCs. If you go up, then there will be some national KDCs. Then if you go further up, then there will be some international KDCs. So the moment Alice wants to communicate with the Bob, so since Bob is present or has been registered in some other domain, and in order to reach Bob, first Alice will contact her local KDC, and then the local KDC will relay her request to the national KDC. Then the national KDC will relay her request to the international KDC, right? And then this reverse process will go on to reach the Bob. Okay, so this sort of arrangement is called as a hierarchical multiple KDC. Okay. Now there is one more important thing which we must need to understand, that the moment we contact any KDC to reach to any other user or server, then our KDC creates a secret key for each member. Okay, and that secret key is called as a session symmetric key between these two parties. Okay, so this secret key can be used only between the member and the KDC, not between the two members, because in this case a person is trying to communicate with the KDC. Then in order to facilitate the communication, KDC is going to create a session symmetric key. Okay, and of course, since this is a session key, so this is only going to be used once. Okay, so now we are going to see a simple protocol which makes the use of KDC in order to facilitate the communication in between Alice and Bob. Okay, so we have two parties named as Alice and Bob, and we have a key distribution center named as KDC. Okay, so in the first place, Alice will make a request that she needs to connect to Bob, or she needs to communicate with Bob. So this will be sent in a plain text to KDC. Okay, and of course, earlier before, Alice has authenticated herself and has got a key from key distribution center. So after doing all those things, now Alice is making a request that she needs to communicate with Bob. Fine. Now in the second step, KDC is sending the ID of Alice, the ID of Bob, and a session key in between Alice and Bob. So this is a session key in between Alice and Bob. Okay. Similarly, this is also this one. This is also a key in between, a session key in between Alice and Bob. Okay. So as you can see, the KDC has encrypted this particular message with the help of a private key of Bob. That means this particular information will be accessed by Bob only, right? So this particular box is called as a ticket. This one will be called as a ticket. Okay, and this ticket will be only opened by the Bob. Fine. So KDC has sent this ticket along with the session key in between the Alice and Bob. Okay, so this is a duplicate copy of this one only, and this message or this overall message has been encrypted with the key of Alice only. That means the only Alice can open this, right? So the authentication of Alice will come into picture. So in order to open this message, Alice needs to use her private key, right? So after decrypting this one, Alice will be having this thing, and this particular key will be used further to communicate with the Bob. Okay, so as you can see that this ticket is now has been sent to Bob, and now Bob will use his private key to decrypt this message. So that way, Bob will come to know that Alice is trying to make a communication with the Bob, and they will do so further with the help of this shared secret in between Alice and Bob. Okay, so this is a simple protocol where use of KDC is being done. Is there any doubt in this particular protocol? Anyone? Because this is very important. Any student? Danusha, Ashutosh, Anurag, Sumit?
सर स्टेप 2 एक बार और समझाइए.
Okay. So in this step 1, Alice is sending a message that she needs to communicate with Bob, right? So KDC will come to know, okay, that Alice is trying to communicate with Bob. So our ticket to Bob is going to be sent to Alice by KDC. So the moment KDC came to know, okay, that Alice is trying to communicate with Bob, so in response, KDC is sending this ticket, okay, and what this ticket contains that the ID of Alice, that Alice is trying to communicate to Bob. Okay, so in general or in total, the information of Alice is being sent to the Bob, and at the end they will they need to communicate together. So a session secret key in between Alice and Bob will be required, and that key will be generated by KDC. Okay, so first, that who is trying to communicate with Bob, that will be sent, and how they are going to communicate. For that communication, a key will be required. So that key along with the ID of the interested person will be sent. Okay, so these two are the main part. The party which is trying to communicate and the key for further communication with that party. So that particular information has been encrypted with the private key of Bob only. So that means this information will be accessed by Bob only, and copy of this key will be shared along with this ticket as well, so that Alice will be able to send this ticket, or Alice will be able to present this ticket to Bob. Okay, and this information will be available to Alice only. How KDC is ensuring that? KDC is ensuring by encrypting this, and this encryption will be decrypted with the private key of Alice only. Okay, so this particular ticket or this information has been sent to the Alice in an encrypted way, and here Alice is going to use her private key in order to access these informations. So the moment Alice gets this information, this key will be used to send this key, this particular ticket, to the Bob. Okay, as we can see that in this step 3, this particular information is being sent. Okay, and how this particular information is being sent? With the help of this key. Okay, which is nothing but the copy of this key only. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is very important because a very complex structure is about to come. Now, this is a very simple representation of the working of Kerberos. So here, similarly, again, we can assume that there are two parties, Alice and Bob. Alice is a simple client, and this time Bob is acting as a server. Okay, and in between we have got a key distribution center, KDC, and this time KDC has been divided, or its working has been divided into two parts: authentication server and ticket granting server. So as the name itself suggests, the first a user needs to authenticate, and after authentication a ticket to the actual server will be granted by the ticket granting server. Okay, so in the first place Alice will request for a ticket for the TGC, okay, TGS. So this time Alice is making a request to KDC, or directly we can say that the Alice is making a request to get to the TGC, and that request is being presented to the authentication server of KDC. Okay, we can see that. And then a session key in between Alice and TGC, this one. And a ticket for TGC is being sent by the authentication server. That means this particular session key will be used, right, to communicate with the TGC, and this ticket will be presented to TGS. Okay, so Alice TGS session key will be used to communicate with the TGS, and then the ticket for TGS will be presented. So that ticket will be used by the TGS, and then further communication will be processed. So in the third step, when the Alice will present a ticket for TGS, and at the same time it will place a request that she needs to communicate with the Bob. So only for that case she is going to place a request that grant me a ticket for Bob. Okay, and this request for having a ticket for Bob will be presented along with the ticket for TGS. Okay, so along with the ticket for TGS will be presented, and user Alice will say that please grant me the ticket for Bob. Okay, so with the help of that ticket, TGS will verify, okay, the request is coming from the authenticated person only, and then further a session key in between Alice and Bob will be provided along with the ticket for Bob. So that ticket will be presented to the Bob with the help of this session key, which has been created by the TGS, and which is a session key in between Alice and Bob. Okay, so this key will be used to request the access, and then the access will be granted. Okay, so this is a general overview. Now let us see how exactly this overall communication is happening. So as have been told earlier, that authentication server is a server which is responsible to authenticate any user or any client, and ticket granting server is generally responsible to issue a ticket for the real server. Okay, and a real server is a server where all these services are being lined. Okay, and those services will be further provided to the requested user. So this is how the overall functioning of Kerberos looks like. So just have a close look into it. Okay, so we have got two persons, Alice and Bob. So Alice is a client, right? Just hold on. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So again, the same thing, we have got two parties, right? And these parties are going to communicate together with the help of a KDC, right? So in the first place, again, the client is sending a request, right? So in the first place, we can see that client is sending a request, and that request in first place will be sent to the authentication server. Okay, yes. And as a response, authentication server is presenting a ticket for ticket granting server. Okay, so this is a ticket which will be sent to the Alice, and this ticket will be sent along with the session key in between Alice and TGS, and this session key will be used further to make a communication with the TGS. Okay, so here we are assuming that in the first place, Alice has successfully authenticated herself to the authentication server, and after successful authentication only, this authentication server has given a ticket for ticket granting server along with a session key, right? So this ticket will be used by TGS only, because who can open this ticket? Only TGS can open. Okay, since this ticket has been encrypted with the help of authentication server and ticket granting server, a secret uh, uh, shared key in between authenticated server and ticket granting server. That means only these two parties can decrypt this particular ticket, right? So we'll assume that this ticket, not assume that this ticket will be sent to the Alice along with the session key in between Alice and ticket granting server. Okay, and of course the whole information is going to be encrypted with a shared secret key in between Alice and authentication server. That means only these two parties can open this particular packet, right? So Alice will use her key to decrypt this message, and after decrypting, she will find a session secret key in between Alice and ticket granting server, which she is going to use for further communication in between Alice and TGS, right? So after decrypting this one, she will be having this key and this ticket. So this ticket will be presented further. We can see this ticket, this one. Okay, so this ticket is being forwarded as it is at this place, and along with this ticket, this time Alice is sending a timestamp T to Bob. Okay, and of course these things are being encrypted with this one. Okay, so this key is going to be used for the encryption, and encryption is there with that she needs to communicate with Bob along with the timestamp T. Okay, so this ticket will be presented to the TGS, and TGS going to use this ticket to authenticate that the request is coming from the authenticated user only, and she is requesting for further communication with Bob. Okay, so after having this request at TGS end, TGS then will process this ticket, and then as we can see that this time TGS has sent this particular ticket for Bob. Okay, so this particular ticket will be presented to Bob, and this will be opened only in between ticket granting server and Bob only. Okay, so a shared secret key in between Alice and Bob along with the identity of Alice will be presented to the Bob. So this will be called as a ticket for Bob. Okay, and who can open this information? Only TGS and Bob. Fine. And apart from that, the identity of Bob and a shared session key in between Alice and Bob has been sent, and of course this has to be encrypted with the session secret key in between Alice and ticket granting server. So Alice is going to use her key in order to decrypt this one. Okay, so after decrypting, she will be knowing, okay, now I can contact to the Bob. So identity of the Bob has been obtained, and a shared secret key in between Alice and Bob has been obtained. So this ticket will be used to forward this particular ticket to the Bob. Okay, so the timestamp has been used to send a ticket which has been granted by the ticket granting server to the Bob. Okay, so since this particular ticket has been authenticated in between TGS and Bob only, so that means this packet is coming from the KDC only. So Bob will use his private key in order to decrypt this particular packet or this particular ticket. So that way he will be able to know that Alice is trying to communicate with him, and this will be the key for the communication. Okay, and Bob will acknowledge this thing by incrementing that timestamp which has been sent by the Alice. Okay, so this is +1, t +1. Okay, so this timestamp will be incremented by any arbitrary value and will be sent to the Alice. So that way Bob will be notifying that he has got a request from Alice for the communication. Okay, so this is how the working of Kerberos looks like in actual. Any problem, any doubt? In the first place, it will look a little bit complex, but the moment you understand what is the actual meaning of these things, then it will be very simple. Okay, so first you need to understand that these are the session keys. Session keys, that means whatever is there inside that packet, these two persons can open. Okay, so this is called as a session secret key. Fine. Any problem, any doubt, students? Ashutosh, Shivam? No doubt? Okay, fine. So this is how the authentication dialog look like. So if we talk about the communication in between the client and authentication server, so first the client is going to present his or her ID, then the password of the client, then the ID of the server. So these are the information which are going to pass from client to the authentication server. And then in the second step, or in the second dialog, which is going to be in between the authentication server and the client, so a ticket will be presented, right? And in the final dialog in between client and server, the ID of the client along with the ticket is going to be presented. So if you talk about the ticket, then these are the information which are going to be there in a ticket. So a key with which communication is going to be taken place in between the user and the server, then the ID of the client, address of the client, and the ID of the server. And all this information is going to be encrypted. And this encrypted form is nothing but is your ticket, which is going to be used in between the dialogues. Okay. So this is the other way of looking into it, the overall working of Kerberos. So I guess we have already discussed. So I'll leave this portion to you for further understanding. And this is another view of presenting the same thing. Okay, Kerberos realm. So it may be possible that in the network we might be having a number of Kerberos realms, means number of Kerberos server. So if in case a user is lying in the other domain or in the other Kerberos domain, then a communication in between the Kerberos can be taken place. Okay, so this is called as a inter-realm authentication. Okay, so as we can see, this is the environment where one Kerberos server is functioning, and this is the other environment where the other Kerberos server is functioning. So if the services are there with this particular realm, then this realm can contact to this realm. Okay, so of course a request ticket has to be there or has to be presented to this Kerberos server, and then final ticket will be granted to the client. Okay, in order to grant the further services from this Kerberos server. So this is how the communication in between the Kerberos can also be taken place. To talk about the applications of Kerberos, then they are generally used for the authentication, authorization, confidentiality, and generally they are used within the networks and a small set of networks. So these are some of the applications of Kerberos. And apart from that, there are certain weaknesses of Kerberos, where if you talk about the ticket granting server, so if the ticket is stolen, then can be used to access network services. So if we talk about this particular problem, then it will be there only up to few hours, because each and every ticket has got some expiry time. Okay, so each and every ticket is not going to be valid for all the time, so they have got a expiry time with them. And if you talk about the dictionary attack, then again some session keys are going to be there, so they need to guess the key within a limited time only. And very bad if authentication server is compromised, and we are going to handle this thing in Kerberos by protecting the server physically. So these are some of the weaknesses associated with the Kerberos, and these are the potential solutions to them. Okay. And if you talk about the competitor to the Kerberos, then SSL is a great, it has been emerged as a great competitor to the Kerberos. So these are some of the differences in between the SSL and Kerberos. So if you talk about the SSL, then they make the use of public key encryption, while Kerberos make the use of private key encryption, right? And they are certificate-based encryption process, and they are trusted third-party based system, right? To talk about SSL, then they are ideal for World Wide Web communication, and they are generally ideal for the network environments or some private networks. Okay. And key revocation requires revocation server to keep track of bad certificates. So in coming classes, we are going to see the working of SSL as well. So how these certificates and all those things function, or how they works. So we'll see them. And if you talk about the key revocation Kerberos, then it can be accomplished by disabling any user which have been authenticated by the authentication server in the Kerberos. Okay. So the role of key certification authority will come into picture in case of SSL, whereas in case of Kerberos, any user can be directly removed, right? So in SSL, all the certificates resides in the local hard drive, while Kerberos, since it is based on the user ID and password, so all these things are going to reside in the user's mind only. So that means any secret attack is not going to matter in this case. And this is not free of cost, and this being open source is freely available. So these are some of the differences in between SSL and Kerberos. So I hope the differences are clear to all of you. And the limitations, of course, scalability has been the issue with the Kerberos, but in the recent modifications or in the recent attempts, this issue has also been addressed and has been a challenging one. Okay, so these are some of the things regarding Kerberos. So is there any doubt, students?
No, sir.
Okay, so I want that all of you should give it a look, okay, because it is very important, and it would be good for all of you if you can just go through it once. Whatever has been discussed, whatever I have taught you, just go through it, and this topic is very, very useful. Okay, so with this, I'll end the class here only. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.